What's the last straw that made you go, yep, that person is definitely crazy? So, I was friends with this girl in high school who was a grade above me and I thought she was so cool. She had these amazing stories of things that happened in her life. After a few years, I started to wonder if she was lying. There were little things I'd catch her in. I started to think she might be a compulsive liar. And then one day I knew when we had a conversation in the mall parking lot. We parked, got out, and began walking to the building. Here's the conversation that followed. Me: I like your outfit. Where'd you get those shoes? Oh, they're my roommates. We had a party at our house and someone stole all my shoes. Me: oh, that's terrible, I'm sorry. Oh, haha, yeah. Where'd you get your outfit? Me: blah 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 hookers. Oh, I love that store. I got my shirt at. Who cares? And these shoes are my roommates. We took all my shoes to a bar when we were out drinking and gave them away. Me: okay. Then we keep walking and as we get to the door. Oh, let's go into Wet Seal first. That's where I bought these boots. This whole conversation happened as we walked to the mall and her story changed 3 times. And she definitely was not messing with me. A man came into the bar I work at. He's a semi-regular and is quite energetic but harmless. Everything was as normal. He drank his small Sauvignon Blanc and left. This is where it gets weird. He came back in a couple of hours later and I asked him if he'd like the same wine he had last time. He stared at me, dead-eyed and completely silent for maybe 30 seconds. Before laughing, he went on to tell me that I must be confusing him for his twin brother, and that in fact his brother was from Earth but he is from another planet, and there couldn't possibly be anything suitable for him to drink in our bar because his digestive system is completely different from ours. This went on for a while. He eventually left and came back in an hour or so later, had a glass of wine, and left again. He's perfectly nice and respectful, so isn't a problem, and there's a whole community of people looking out for him. But he's definitely crazy. TFW, you are so socially awkward you have to pretend you're an alien twin. My brother started dating this girl and I thought she was a little clingy and insecure, but I chalked it up to being a little nervous around her new boyfriend's family. However, she had been with my brother for less than 6 months when I got engaged. In a conversation about wedding dates, I said I wanted to get married in October. She immediately got upset and started crying to my brother. She didn't want me to steal her dream wedding date and she told me that the entire month of October was off limits. She expected my brother to propose to her and they'd get married that year. Yep, she cray. Luckily my brother eventually realized she was a little unhinged and dumped her, and I had my wedding in October. Take that, B. Talking to a girl I didn't know that well. Oh, I'm an only child. Me: really? I could never imagine being an only child. What's that like? Oh, it gets lonely sometimes but you get used to it, you know? Fast forward a few minutes. Me: I really like your bracelet. Oh, thanks. My sister gave it to me. In my head. Ooh, okay. Something doesn't add up. So I decide to ask her. Me: oh, really? I thought you were an only child. Oh, no way. I have 7 siblings, lol. Yep. Compulsive liar and definitely crazy. Being an only child is hard, especially when you have 7 siblings. I had an extremely clingy friend that texted and tried to call me 50 million times a day. Well, I was having a really shitty day and I wasn't in the mood to converse with her at all and just ignored her. She called the police and told them she thought I had committed suicide. That was fun. Oh boy. I went to a music fest with a girl I had been friends with for just a few months. She knew I had had seizures in the past. We get separated at some point and she has the medical staff of major music festival looking for me and she called my then girlfriend, now wife, and made her drive to said music fest to find me because she thought I was seizing. I was at the rendezvous point that she picked. When my doggy college roommate tried to piss off the girls living in the dorm room next to us by banging his head on the wall constantly to piss them off with the noise, I still don't even know why he hated them. He just did. I worked at a gas station when I was in high school. Every day around the same time for a couple months this really cute guy would come in for the restroom and head out. Eventually, I started being friendlier and he'd stop for a second to chat and eventually he'd ask if I'd like to hear a poem. I'd gush about how great it was and he'd go about his way. This guy was gorgeous so that clouded my judgment. His poems made no sense and got weirder as time went on. My coworker BFF urged me to stop being so friendly as he gave her the creeps. I, being 15 and boy crazy, ignored this. This went on for months until one day he ran in with his hair in pigtails and cat type whiskers drawn on his face and locked himself in the bathroom for over an hour. I knocked on the door several times and heard him talking as if on the phone. This was pre-cell phones being normal. I had a pager. Finally he busts out clutching a half-dissolved urinal cake up to his ear and says, "Someone left me a clue. I finally found it. Farewell." He ran away down the street and we never saw him again. Yeah, so not an eccentric poet. You're only eccentric when you're rich. The rest of us are just crazy. My ex calling the cops on me because she thought I was trying to poison her. I bought salted butter instead of unsalted. Was she a snail? Have to say it wasn't me, but a story from a coworker of mine. He was in his basement apartment one night and after coming out of the bathroom, one of his ex-girlfriends was standing in the hallway just staring at him. He immediately told her to get out, as any person would. She followed it by pulling out a steak knife from her back pocket and swinging it around, making some pretty crazy statements. He managed to get the knife away from her, and then she pulled out another one. This girl had a pack of steak knives in her pocket. She then proceeded to stab herself in the neck. I think that's when he realized she was pretty off. She survived. They're dating now. That's when I realized my coworker was crazy. My husband's cousin is the only female in the family that is around my age, so when we used to go to family functions I tended to hang out with her. Our friendship blossomed and she was who I considered to be my best friend. We both had 3 kids and they all loved each other, so we just spent a lot of time together. My husband always told me she was crazy, that she would turn on me, but I just thought they grew up together and had some weird kind of sibling rivalry kind of thing going on. Her ex-husband hated her. Court cases for custody were happening all the time. It was nasty. They weren't allowed to be in the same room together per court order even. I only heard her side of the story, so I, of course, just assumed it was him. That was horrible. Fast forward a few years. She is remarried and has a new baby with her new husband. She's an interior decorator and has always been struggling financially, but somehow all of a sudden she is buying all the things. New iPods for all the kids, including mine. Gaming laptop for her oldest, furniture, electronics. She pays a year of rent so she won't have to think about it. While I'm over there because I'm now an approved supervisor for the supervised visitation her ex-husband has imposed through the court, she starts screaming at her new husband for not loading the dishwasher correctly and pushes him fully, with real force, down the stairs. He somehow manages to be okay but she doesn't stop, runs after him with clear plans to attack. The guy has to literally flee his own home. I packed up the 3 older kids and my kids and got out of there. I didn't report it because she guilted me into thinking she had PPD and would be fine. One Valentine's Day she decides she wants to have a party for the kids. The time didn't work out for me so I told her we couldn't attend. She lost her shit and called me every name she could think of. She took things I had said to her in confidence and told our whole family. I got pages and pages of scathing emails. I was crushed. 5 years later she remarried again and had 2 more babies with a new guy. She called DCF on her 15-year-old son claiming he sexually harassed her 2-year-old daughter. Had zero evidence but decided because she was acting weird that this must have been what happened. After a heated altercation with new guy where police were called, she now has lost custody of all 6 kids and begs me to come to court to be a character witness. When she literally tried to break my wrist at a party for not high-fiving her. Alcohol is like a steroid for crazy. Wrist hurts just thinking about it. I think she did jiu-jitsu or something because damn. Oh, yeah, alcohol makes people either happier or crazier. Did she try to karate chop your wrist? Grabbed it and just clamped hard, then twisted. Felt like a vice or something. When they brought a dead bird into a Subway sandwich place and tried to barter it for a sub. Edit. This was years ago, so to my best recollection here's the long version. I was eating at my local Subway sandwiches. Woman comes to the counter, pulls a dead bird from her coat and asks what type of sub she can get for the bird. Everybody turns and watches as the teenager behind the counter realizes what's going on. He starts yelling that she needs to leave because a dead bird is an obvious health thing. She gets mad that he's not even willing to hear her out, and storms off mumbling and swearing under her breath. One of my co-workers, a middle-aged woman whom we'll call Karen. Definitely not my favorite person to talk to and or work with, as our personalities and political views always seem to be complete opposites of each other. Karen makes these completely irrelevant, irrational and extreme statements out of the blue all the time, often notably just to disagree with me or one of the many other people that she can't get along with. Another co-worker's cat died some time ago, and after autopsy it appeared that the cat ate a poisoned sponge. You'll often hear about cat or dog haters that poison snacks and scatter them around here in the Netherlands. That co-worker obviously had a hard time coping with the death of his cat, and while we were talking about it with a group of co-workers, Karen barges in and says that she can completely understand why people poison cats or dogs, because she can't stand the fact that cats come in her backyard and there. She even stated that she'd do it too. Yup, ever since then I know she's crazy. Months after going on a single date with a woman, she calls me on Christmas Eve while I'm at work to introduce me to her family over the phone as her boyfriend. The one date we had was dinner at a restaurant. She didn't order anything, just kept eating my fries and then watching TV back at her place. Nothing physical happened and the date ended with a handshake. When I responded that we were not a couple, she started freaking out and crying about how horrible I was for breaking up with her on Christmas Eve. Do you think she actually believed you were dating, or was that just a lie she was telling her family and then they called her bluff? I'm sure that she believed that we were dating because she later found out my home address and sent me a letter accusing me of leading her on. Not too extreme, but I had a co-worker that regularly talked about how so many of her friends have screwed her over in the past. At first I believed her and felt bad, until she told us what her latest ex-friend did, after basically calling him every name in the book. Of course, she and her husband decided one day to replace their furniture. This was a spur-of-the-moment decision, and since they didn't have a truck to move their stuff, they texted their friend to see if said friend could help them, along with friend's truck. Friend said no, can't do, I'm busy today. Crazy B showed up at his house and flipped out when she saw that he was home relaxing. That's how entitled she thought she was to his vehicle and his time. She screamed about every single thing she had ever done for him. Pettish, like bought you a soda when you forgot your wallet. Cops had to be called. From then on out I was careful not to accept any favors from her because I'm 98% sure the only reason she would ever do a nice thing is to throw it back in your face when you have to tell her no. Like she used to give one of our co-workers a ride home, and I witnessed this co-worker on multiple occasions offer gas money, pay for her lunch, etc. as a thank you. She always declined with "I'm going that way anyway," until one day co-worker pissed her off, so she ran around telling everyone that co-worker was a merch and never once paid gas money. IDK, maybe this is more manipulative than crazy, but she was always so miserable, so it's not like she was even getting what she wanted at the end of the day, so I consider it some kind of crazy. Oh Jesus. I have a recent ex-friend who is just like that. I could smell the bullshit on her after a few meetings, but in the interest of civility, she's dating my other friend. I kept my mouth shut, but after a couple of years of that sort of bullshit I just couldn't be asked with it anymore. Everything she did was transactional. Nothing was altruistic. Unfortunately my other friend caught her crazy and also became a selfish, entitled wanker. So we're no longer on speaking terms. Her favorite thing to do was to humbly brag about all of the charity work she does and then use that as an excuse to prop herself up when she got pulled up on her behavior and how she was always victimized by people when she was such a good person. God effing forbid if someone didn't like her and worship the ground she walks on. This would induce a full-scale childish breakdown. Why doesn't such and such a body like me? I haven't done anything wrong to them. I'm such a good person. Why does everyone hate me? Followed by crying. In my opinion, if you're doing good deeds so you can use them as leverage later, then you're a selfish prick. When he told me he's a werewolf, pretty sure every school from, at least, the early zeros through now has had one of those kids. Either that or you're my high school friend who dated the werewolf kid from my school. High school girlfriend left me for a vampire. That was confusing. We had a float nurse who would occasionally appear on our unit. Great nurse. Patients love him. Completely insane. Always be busy when he's getting ready to go. He will start talking about insane conspiracy theories that he documents on Twitter. I decided he was definitely crazy when I received a very long lecture about how there were secret ties between Big Hero 6 some Brad Pitt war movie, and the number 3, because the meaning of everything is love. Also, he receives secret messages from the radio DJ. I'm pretty sure his wife leaving him triggered some kind of psychotic break, or she left because he was crazy. When another nurse got engaged, he looked at the ring and told her, the bigger the diamond, the colder the heart. I have so many good ones for this. I made friends with a guy who was on the fringe of our college friend group. He seemed bright and we shared interests. He was a junior chess champion and I always wanted to learn, so he was teaching me. We chatted online sometimes. His parents were divorced and his father lived in Europe somewhere, and he flew over for a few weeks. I'm hanging out, cleaning out a closet at my house when he messages me. He tells me a few years back he was dating a girl and she was crazy and abusive. He'd gotten out and broken all contact, blocked her and changed all of his screen names. But she'd found him and messaged him and he was upset. Would I talk to him? I said of course and ended up chatting with him for a few hours. A few weeks later he'd been back and we'd hung out some and he expressed interest in me romantically. I told him I was seeing someone else at the time. I actually was. Guy continued to be clingy and weird. It got to a point where I wasn't sure if I was starting to dislike him because he was annoying or if he was annoying because I disliked him. He kept acting like we were dating despite my other committed relationship that predated our friendship. I took a step back from the friendship. He messaged me telling me he'd reconnected with a girl he'd worked on a group project with while walking around campus, and she'd given him her number again. They planned to get coffee. I was delighted and encouraged him to pursue it because then he'd leave me the F alone. After the date he checked in with me. I assumed since I'd been enthusiastic and he had no other close friends. They got coffee, talked for hours, and had a good time. But I told him how happy I was for him. He said, "You're not upset?" Gosh, why would I be? You're not jealous? No, of course not. I'm happy for my friend. You were supposed to be jealous. Okay buddy, I made the whole thing up to make you jealous. Well, that's a little extreme. I also made up the time my ex-girlfriend contacted me in Sweden, because if you don't punch people in the face they don't talk to you. If you don't metaphorically punch people in the face they don't talk to you. Man, that was a thing he said. Why would he admit to being a compulsive liar? I think he wanted me to be impressed by that. I blocked him on all media and discontinued that friendship. It was a wild 2-3 months.